Hey friends, welcome back. If by chance you are new here, my name's Audrey and I have 8 children. My husband and I live on a 6-acre homestead in the Midlands of South Carolina, but I wear a lot of hats. I own a residential cleaning company. I have this YouTube channel. I am a part-time business instructor for an online school, and some of my kids are homeschooled, 2 of my kids are grown, and some of my kids are in regular school. This time of year, I find my head spinning. Our schedule is picking up big time. My 3rd child is about to graduate in, I don't know, like 30 days or something crazy like that. Right before that, he's going to have major knee surgery from an injury he sustained during football season. And I say all that because I found myself drowning last week. I went on a field trip with my daughter to Atlanta with her class. It was super fun. We went to the Capitol building. We went to the World of Coke. It was a lot of fun. However, in these really busy seasons, I need my Mondays to set the course for the rest of my week. And it was a busy week. I was turning in grades for my classes that I was finishing up teaching. We were coming up on the Masters golf tournament. We don't live far outside of Augusta, Georgia, just over the river. And that is one of the busiest weeks for my business. And I was having to get all of my ducks in a row for my employees. And anyways, I just felt like my head was spinning. Not only that, I am a very visual person. I really like my spaces to stay decluttered and fairly organized, just to keep things running efficiently. There's a lot of people in this house, and everything was just spiraling. It was unraveling, and I am doing this voiceover in my greenhouse, so hopefully the wind isn't too bad for the audio. But I just found myself longing to get to the weekend so I could just give a big hard reset to my home. And that is exactly what this video is. I just filmed, most of it was on time lapse. This little part here wasn't. There were a few parts that weren't. But the spaces that I wanted to deep clean and declutter and just get back to a place of visual peace and working at its fullest potential were the laundry room and mudroom, which is this room that I'm in here. This countertop is where I store my grain mill, because I have found that as long as it is out and plugged in, I will use it almost every day if needed to make my family's bread products and baked goods. If I unplug it and put it 5 feet away in the pantry where there is a door and a shelf with no plug, I will just let it go. It's just too much. And I'll use organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour, which is fine in certain seasons, but there's so many health benefits to freshly ground whole grains, and I've been trying to get back into that. So we keep that on this counter along with all of our clean milk jars, and when the milk bucket is clean, the pail that we milk into, that goes on this counter as well. The bench behind me is such a catch-all. Like, it is a bench version of a junk drawer. People come in the back door and they dump all their stuff, and I actually threw away a pair of rubber work boots that smelled so bad. When I would walk in, I would feel certain there was something dead in the trash, or there was a really nasty milk rag in the sink or something. And then all of a sudden one day I realized, it's actually that pair of boots. It was so disgusting. And they were really inexpensive. They actually had cracks in them, so whoever wore them out was getting their feet wet in the wet grass or in the rain, and so they needed to be replaced anyways. And when I realized that was the source of the stench, it was a real easy decision. So this is the first really thorough, walls, doors, glass, the bench, the counters, the cabinets, behind the freezer. I had just defrosted our deep freezer because we had a problem after we brought our meat cow home from the butcher. It's a long story, but anyways, as a result, I pulled the whole big upright freezer out back to defrost last week. So everything got a big deep clean. And not only that, I filled my sink with hot water and a little splash of Meyer's geranium scented all-purpose cleaner. And that is what I used to wipe all of this down. So it smelled so fresh and clean. And I haven't done this in a long time for this room in particular, and it needed it so badly. And I cannot tell you, if you are a person who loves cleaning in general, you understand this feeling. And I understand that not everyone is like this. A lot of people are fairly nose blind to smells in their house, or it just doesn't bother them when things get a little crazy and it takes a while to catch up. I can't sleep. I slept horribly all week last week. Horribly. I would wake up at 2 a.m, 3, 4. I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. There was too much racing through my mind. And that's another part of this day for me, was feeling like I could finally sort out that mental to-do list that felt like it was just compounding and snowballing, and really had kind of stolen my peace. Like I just couldn't enjoy walking into my greenhouse and checking on our seedlings and starting more and watering things and just enjoying. I love the life that we live. But I always know when my priorities have gotten out of whack and we've gotten too busy, or I have, because I lose that peace and those little bits of joy. So this day was all about putting things back where they belong, giving everything a nice big scrub down. The other areas I wanted to tackle were the kitchen, of course, and my bedroom. My bedroom was horrendous. I wanted to wash my sheets. I needed to put away our down comforter. Josh and I have been sweating at night because we're in South Carolina. We have had days really close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit already, and this is just the beginning of April. And we still had a down comforter on our bed. Now, some might argue we don't ever need a down comforter on our bed in South Carolina, but we like the weight of it in the winter. I really enjoyed having it this past winter. We actually had a pretty nice cold winter. But that is definitely gone, and spring/summer is certainly here. And so I needed to get that put away and get the duvet cover washed. I couldn't even see my desk. It was covered in all sorts of things. And I just kind of kept moving little fires around my room. I could hardly see my nightstand. It was covered in half-used balls of yarn and a notebook and a trigger point tool for reaching sore muscles in your back that you can't reach by yourself. And seed packets. Dozens of seed packets from years past that were in a really bad, messy pile on my nightstand, so that if you pulled one out, the rest might all fall behind and beside and in front of my nightstand. And then right in front of my nightstand on the floor, there was a pile of costume pieces that are in progress or in process that I need to finish. That's also kind of been a visual reminder of my shortcomings here lately. This play that 5 of my children are in just a few weeks, I'm not finished with their costumes yet. So all of these things needed to be put in a proper place that was efficient and helpful and useful. And so that is what this day was all about. And ironically, I didn't even really get started until almost noon. I kind of sort of slept in. I slept till about 8 o'clock, but I did not, once again, I did not sleep well that night. And so even waking up at 8, I just felt so groggy and like I was so slow to get started. I went out and delivered our Saturday milk and ran a quick errand. There were some things at the grocery store that I had forgotten when I did our big monthly trip a few days ago. And so I went back to Walmart to grab those items. And it wasn't until I got back home close to noon that I finally kind of hit the ground running. And all it took was getting this laundry room done. And it just felt like my old self that had been missing for about a week was coming back, because I am motivated by this. I really enjoy cleaning. I'm a doer, sometimes to a fault. Sometimes I have a hard time putting down my to-do list and putting down the productivity to just sit and snuggle with my kids at night right before their bedtime, I feel like if I stop before I'm finished, then it just won't get done, and that's when it all starts to snowball. But that's not always the case. When I'm able to stay on top of the house, and believe me, I have lots of helpers. My teenage girls are so tremendous. This has been a really fun season of life where they want to help. They have seen how much joy that I get from keeping our home tidy and hospitable and presentable, and I have seen little glimmers of them finding joy in that as well, and finding joy in just helping me, because they know that that speaks to my heart. So by no means was I having to do this myself. In fact, here I am scrubbing we have one little bitty inside dog. She weighs like 5 pounds. She really belongs to my daughter Zoe, and Zoe takes wonderful care of her and loves her to death, but her food and water bowl stay in the laundry room where her bed is. And man, when you're scrubbing the baseboards and mopping the floors and you realize that the dog bowl has all these funky little crevices with dirt and dust in them, not where her food and water go, but around the bottom, I decided to take the time to even clean her bowls, and they look good as new. But days like this, I really benefit from just kind of putting my nose to the grindstone and doing it myself, because I enjoy it. If it were a burden to me and I didn't enjoy it, I would most definitely delegate and ask everyone to pitch in and take a couple, tasks each, and it would be over in no time. But this felt really good to do myself. Now you can see the after. Ruby's shiny bowls. The clean floors. I took magic eraser to all of the cabinets and some of the walls and the door. And here, see, when I start to get these cleaning projects done, suddenly I have the motivation and the energy to tackle a couple of other things that have been kind of on the back burner. And one of those is I bought some sensors and an alarm for our big upright freezers. We have had freezers full of deer meat in the past, or even during COVID when I did some really big shopping trips to keep me from having to go back to the stores in the midst of the pandemic. There have been plenty of times that the freezer was full, but it has never felt quite as valuable and precious as when we butchered our first beef cow back in February, and we brought home almost 400 pounds of meat that we had cared for and raised on our land and sent to a family butcher that we know personally. And it felt very different. It wasn't about the money. It was about the contents and the quality of that. And so I bought these sensors and this alarm that magnetizes to the front of the freezer, and you can set the temperature range, like anywhere from -20 up to however, whatever temperature you're comfortable with your freezer. And if it ever falls outside of that temperature window, the alarms go off, and then you know which freezer, the temperature has faltered in, and you don't run the risk of ever losing the contents of your freezer because you get warned as soon as that temperature is outside of the range that you want it at. So anyways, also that is another thing that kept me up last night. The alarm went off at 2:30 in the morning because I had set that temperature range a little too tight. So here I am taking the duvet cover off of our duvet. And a lot of duvets nowadays are down alternative. And y'all, I wanted a down comforter, like real down. And I was covered in tiny white downy feathers after I took it apart. Here you can see my desk. Well, almost. It felt good to get to this part. The laundry room and mudroom were deep cleaned and decluttered, and now it is time to kind of tackle my personal space where I sleep and where I rest and where I'll sit to read a book, or I'll sit at my desk to get work done from all the different hats that I wear. And when all of this is in disarray, I feel like I'm not caring for myself. And so it felt really good to get all of this done. This desk was so cheap. I ordered it off of Amazon. It's very small. I'm assuming you can tell how small it is by looking at it. I think it's only like 15 inches deep, but it was just right for this little space between my bedroom door and my closet door. And this is the first time in my adult life that I have had a desk of my own. It's the first time I've ever really needed one. And it's been so incredibly helpful. But it's not helpful when it's a total disaster like it has been. And so I am checking out the contents of everything that has cluttered it up, and I'm putting it away. Some of the things that I kind of put in these little drawers don't belong there. And sometime this next week, I will go through those things and put other things where they belong. But for now, this served the purpose that I needed. And that was just to clear off the clutter from the surface so I can start fresh on Monday. Now that I've been able to hit the reset button this weekend and we're at the start of a new month, I think it's the perfect time to finally kickstart my series on the Lazy Genius. Kendra Adachi wrote The Lazy Genius Way, and it is one of my favorite books over the last 5 years. She also has a podcast, and I will promote her stuff throughout this series, but I want to share with you her 13 or 14, I always forget which number it is, Lazy Genius Principles. I do not like the word lazy. If you've been around here for a while, you know that there is nothing about me that is lazy. However, I get her point in calling it the Lazy Genius Way, and I cannot wait to share it with you. I think it is going to be super helpful. It could quite literally be life-changing, no matter what season of life you're in, whether you are single, young, older, retired, working 3 or 4 jobs like I am, children, no children. There's so much to be shared. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.